Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Catherine and today we're finally doing my July and August wrap up. I don't know since when I have this trend of like combining months together. I don't feel like doing like monthly wrap ups because this summer I've been struggling to read. Since probably April I've been really struggling to read. I have been on a lot of like life-changing events, and so I didn't really feel like reading. But it's August now and things have changed. I think I'm gonna go back to monthly wrap-ups, so hooray! If you hear my voice being a little bit cracking and like doing weird things, I'm sorry. I just been sick with COVID. I'm still recovering. I'm doing much better. This is why I haven't been posting or updating anybody for a while, but I'm getting better now, so don't worry. I'm doing fine. COVID's not gonna take this one yet, so let's talk about July. July has been very weird months for me. Like, reading wise and life wise, I've read only 2 books. The first book that I've attempted to read as an audiobook actually is In the Woods by Tana French. I wanted to try Tana French for so long. You know, she's been around for ages, and I always wanted to know if I would click with her writing, if like I would like her, because she still writes books and she writes a lot. There's a lot of her novels out there, so I was really interested to check her out, and I DNF'd this book. I did not like this book at all. I can't even tell you what this book is about. It's been, as I said, it's been a month. It's been over a month since I tried to read this one. I got to halfway point. I got to page 214 and I couldn't do it anymore. I don't remember almost nothing about this book. It's so forgettable. My entire experience with this book was just like, I don't care about what's going on. The things that going on in the book, it did not matter to me, and I feel like I've just been like reading this because this is the audiobook I had, because I was trying to listen to this on a flight back from Russia to United States, and then this is the audiobook that I had, and I've been trying to listen to this, and it was a very long flight because I did not enjoy this book at all, and I don't think I will ever try anything by Tana French. Like, don't hold me accountable, but like I don't feel like Tana French is my type of mystery thriller author. Detective stuff, I have outgrown detective stuff. Like, I used to really like detective mystery thrillers, but this is not it. So I DNF'd at halfway point. I give it 1 star because I didn't finish it, so this is the first book. I really have nothing else to say about it. Before I start discussing the second book that I've read in the month of July, and the last book, the only book that I read in the month of July, I want to give you guys a heads up saying that we're gonna be picking books for October, November, and December, so you guys know what to read for the rest of the year. I don't want to hold this as a surprise, not to myself, not to you guys, so if you want to participate in my book club pick, it's a Aurora Gilmore Challenge book club, so if you want to participate in reading certain books every month with me, wait until the end of the video. We're gonna be picking books for the rest of the year. It's crazy to even think that that's almost the end of the year. Oh my god. Anyway, next I read The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I was still in the mood for mystery thriller. I didn't get the thrills from that, so I decided to pick up Ruth Ware. This is so reflective of my light. I'm sorry, I tried to hold it this way. I read Ruth Ware before, and I liked her enough to like try other works by her. I actually reached out to Megan from Head Over Books, my dear friend. I'm gonna link her channel down below. She's awesome. Go check her out. And we read this buddy book together, and it was really nice experience reading with her. I gave it 4 stars. It was entertaining, there were things were happening. It follows this woman who sees a job opportunity at this mansion, and she finds out that there are a lot of girls and nannies that quit this job. So she moves into this mansion trying to get the nanny job. She gets it really fast, and they just gets off on her, and the parents disappear. The whole house is being monitored by the cameras so they can like see what's going on in there, and then the nanny started hearing like the noises upstairs, saying that that's what drove all the other nannies away. Like the house is haunted. So as I said, I really liked this book. I gave it 4 stars. I felt good about it, but the only thing that was absolutely annoying the piss out of me is the main character, the nanny. I don't even remember her name anymore. Her reactions, her decision making, her way of thinking was very, very annoying until we got to the end, to the reveals, where I was able to understand why she was so unprofessional, why she was so rude and completely like a complete mess in front of like the children. I couldn't understand why, because I was a nanny myself and I understand that this is a hard job, but if you agree to it, like you can't just like mess it up or back off or, you know, just like being unprofessional. And I didn't understand what was her problem. Entire book was pissing me off until like the end revealed me like what actually is going on. Also mentioned that actually, I forgot, this book starts with her being in prison and she's writing this letter to somebody to say that the kid died in the house and that she wasn't guilty, and we don't know who's the kid and like what happened. So we're seeing this story through her letters that she writes to the attorney, to the psychiatrist, or I don't remember who she's writing. But I like that aspect, that the person who's already being accused of being guilty and writing the letters from the prison. I thought this is kind of fun. I probably would love the heck out of this book if I read it like 2017-18 when I was just getting into mystery thrillers, but for some reason I'm finding myself just being less and less surprised when I'm following like this unreliable female character that drinks a lot and like just complains about her life, yet does nothing to make her situation better. I feel like this is a trend for a lot of mystery writers right now, that they just like grab a female character, make her drink a lot, and then put her in a dangerous situation where not only she's trying to escape, but she's going and investigating more. And I'm like, why? You know you're gonna get hurt. You know that. You're gonna die. So I give it 4 stars. I think you'll like it if you are new to like mystery thriller genre. I've heard so much better reviews about this book than like what I personally think, and the pattern will continue as we go on and I will talk about other books. Continuing with The Girl Interrupted by Susanna, and our book pick for our month of July. I've started it in July, I finished it in August. Even though this was such a short book, it took me a while to read it. This is a psychology memoir following the girl who has borderline personality disorder, and she's been like sent to this hospital. They take her like rights away, and it's just her experience being in that mental institution when they care for them. There are many other like girls and stuff. I was really excited to read it. I picked it up before I even started this Rory Gilmore challenge because I love psychology, I love talking about mental illnesses, and this is what I actually studied in college for like 2 years. I give it 3 stars, but it's very specific 3 stars. Hear me out. The entire book that I was reading, up to like, I even show you where, up to like right here, so that's almost the end, like that's the last like probably 30 pages of the book. There was just like random scenes that she witnessed. There's just like random scenes of her life, some different moments in that hospital. So she talks about the girls or the nurses, or just like describes things like in that hospital, which could be interesting if she did it in an interesting way, but the entire thing, I felt like she was just like rambling about something, and again, did not make me care about why should I care about why they're going through this. So I did not get attached to any of the characters, right? I literally didn't care for anything that's been happening, and all of her like really small fragments of her life in that institution were kind of not enough for me to really be involved into the story until we got to page 147, when she actually says what her prognosis is and why she was assigned to this hospital and what actually is wrong with her. And that was the most exciting part. So like the entire book I didn't care, and I wanted to DNF it, but I read it because of the book club, and I was about to give it 2 stars. And then I got to the last like 20 pages and I started reading of what this prognosis means, like how people define it and how she actually felt compared to like definition of her prognosis, right? her disorder. She is like really self-aware, and she describes a lot of cool things, and I like that. I like that aspect. Like there was good psychology fragment where it educated me about this disorder, and it showed me her point of view, and I love that. She mentioned such great things, such as like in the schools everybody should be equal, and everybody should be taking the same amount of subjects, everybody should be doing this and this and that, but some people, for example, are not gifted in certain areas, thus they fail that specific subject. And she gave an example of she had to write an essay on historical event, and her teacher asks her like, why didn't you not write the assignments? So she's like, I don't have an opinion about this historical event. He's like, why don't you choose another historical event to write about? She's like, I don't have an opinion about any historical events. And she's like, I wrote a poem instead. And she failed the class, and her parents were upset and being like, why do you write your stupid poems? You're supposed to write the essays. And that made me angry. That made me so frustrated, because nothing was actually wrong with her, rather than she had a talent for certain thing, and she did not feel the need or knew why does she have to not do what she likes, but what she has to do for school. Like that didn't make sense for her. And her disorder is all being described as she is very uninterested and bored in the life, and that she can be self-inflicting and like bad things upon her because she's just very bored. And I don't think that that's a specific disorder. I think this is our society pressuring us to become someone that we are not trying to be. They say that you have to be great at all of those things, but the reality is that not all people are great at all of those things. Before the whole school system settled and everybody had to study everything, for all of that, there were so many geniuses. There were Einsteins and other scientists that did not waste their time studying every single thing, like music and art. If they were not cool at it, if they wanted to pursue their passions at physics and figure out the laws, so they went ahead and they did that. And maybe they were kind of awkward in society, but now everybody's like, oh my god, he was a genius. But now if people are a little bit declining from everybody else's like normality slope, then you have a disorder. Being gay, lesbian, or transgender, have any other sexuality preferences back in the day was considered disorder, and people were put in mental institutions if they said, oh, I consider myself a man if she was a woman, because there were not so many cases of that happening. But nowadays, the more people coming out and saying that I just identify as a certain person, like I'm not this or that, or I don't want to be just a man, I'm actually a woman, like whatever the case is, now it's considered to be a norm. And so they literally removed, they call it gender personality disorder, they removed that from the book of disorders. It's no longer a disorder because it became an order. Now it became normal to identify as whoever you want. Any of my friends come out and saying, I'm a transgender, it's not, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, you're sick, you're wrong, like I'm gonna call the mental institution. No, you'd be like, oh, that's cool, do you. I'm not gonna go freak out, like that's a normal thing now. And so that's what she talks about in the last part of the book, which I found, as I said, really, really valuable. And if you get a chance to read it, or if you read it, let me know what you think. So now let's move to the August books. Let's start with The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I finally got around reading this book. I was so excited to be reading this book. I bought it full price on my birthday, which was $28. I bought a hardcover, which I usually do not get, and it's all because this book won the Goodreads Choice Award for Mystery Thriller last year. It's been nominated and it won to be like the best thrilling book ever. A lot of people have been reading it and saying how great the story is, and let me tell you, I freaking hated this book. I honestly am so disappointed. I gave it 2 stars. Nothing in this book worked for me. I honestly couldn't care less about anything that's been happening. We follow this group of characters. We follow multiple perspectives. We follow the bride, the groom, we follow the bridesmaid, we follow the +1, the best man, like the wedding planner. There are so many people that were in this book, and there are so many more like side characters. And everybody gets invited to this island where they prepare for the wedding, and just so much crap is being said. This book is trying to set up so many like relations between everybody, and it makes everybody connected, and everybody has like a background story that what they've been like traumatized somehow, and now they come to this island and like everybody's trying to kill this like one person. I'm not gonna reveal anything just in case you want to go and check it out still. But they're just like, there will be a murder, and they're like almost everybody, you know, almost everybody should be responsible for this person's death. And I can tell you, I honestly did not care. Not even one character is likable. Just people with problems. Everything that's going on is absolutely pointless. And I knew for a fact that who the book is trying to set up to be the murderer, none of them would be the murderer. Like, I knew it. Like, even then when like scenes are happening, I'm like, nah, nope, that's not him. And I'm like, nope, that's not her. Nope, that's not this person either. This low quality of the book is so hyped up, and I really don't get it. Let me know if you read it, let me know what you thought of it. I am highly disappointed. Mostly disappointed because I bought it as my birthday present for full price, which I was like, also bummed because she has The Hunting Game, I think, the book, that I was actually really interested in reading. But after this, I'm not that sure that I want to read anything by this author. Let me know if you read this or The Hunting Party, and if you liked any of these, and if you read both, would you recommend me to still go read that one? Then I picked up another book that is so hyped up. I am hurt to even say that, but I am starting doubting that I have the same reading taste as Kayla, because I have bought so many books off of her recommendations, not even checking if our tastes match, and it's bad on my, like, I'm not accusing her of like recommending bad books, like that's not the case. I'm just like bumped because I feel like maybe our reading tastes do not match, and I bought this book specifically based on her personal enjoyment of this book. And again, I bought it full price for my birthday because it was just such a gorgeous book. Lots Away by Darcy Lear Badger. I wouldn't say that I hated this book. I did not hate this book. I just felt this book was not written for me. I thought there would be like Native Americans and this girl who can like bring ghosts back to dead, and she has the, you know, dogs as ghosts, and you know, I just wanted that magical Native American indigenous writing. I wanted that story that would just be like, you know, has some great value and morals and stuff. And it tried to do that, but at the same time there were so many things that I was just like why? This book was kind of set for me to like, you know. I want to read more about Native Americans. I want to read more about where the dogs are, you know, want to make characters that they participate, ghosts, bringing dogs back to life. That's awesome. Like, there's even a vegetarian character in this book that I was like, come on. But that still did not work for me. I give it 3 stars because of the just mess that this book ended up being. It follows this girl whose uncle, I think, gets killed, and she sees him in a dream, and like all of this, like all the events that happen in this book surround like his death, trying to figure out what happened. So it's also like a mysterious book at that. So we're trying to figure out who's the murderer and why, and her relative are like, you should bring him back to death, but then some be like, no, this is dangerous, we don't bring people back because they're not themselves. This all could work, and I do not mind books where not everything is realistic. I don't want to read only books where everything is realistic. In fact, I don't really like those books that much. I would love some sci-fi or fantasy element, and that's fine. Her family can bring ghosts back to life, you know, or the dead people, the dead animals. That's cool, like, make me believe it. But when they go out of the way and introduce vampires out of all creatures in this book and make it a norm, like nobody cares that they're like vampires. This is like just a given, and they go like almost get attacked by one in one scene, and I'm like, are you not gonna explain that? Are you not gonna talk about it? It's just a thing, like they're just like normal vampires. Like, no, make me believe that the world could still exist in the boundaries, set some boundaries. Why would you introduce some vampires to the story? Why in their face then? Why aren't they zombies? Why vampires? And how do they add to anything to the story? That made me really upset, to be honest. Like, I don't have anything against vampires, but in this situation, in this book, in this story, I felt that we're so out of place. It's so ridiculous written at that also. Like the most cliche vampire you can ever think of. That was this. You're supposed to feel and care for those characters, the grief, but they didn't have any grief. Those were just really plain characters, and the conversations were so basic about random things that did not matter to the story, not to the world, not to anything. Could have been such an amazing story. The name of this girl, Elatsue. Talk about it. Talk about her ancestors. Talk about the family unity and stuff. No, they go and talk about vampires and some random crap that doesn't matter. I give it 3 stars. I don't know. Maybe the book is saving it because of how beautiful it is and what great illustrations it has. I'm sorry, I didn't like it. I honestly feel bad for not liking it. This book's standing right here, by the way, on the shelf, and this is like my favorite shelf. And it's not gonna be standing there anymore. Alright, moving on. Next book that I read in the month of August was Station 11 by Emily S. Johnson Mandel. Mandel? I don't know. I read this book. Oh, I tried to buddy read this book with my friend. She is not a booktuber, but hey, Polina. It was nice reading with you. She wanted to read this book, and so I had it, so we read it together. I wanted to read it for a long time. This book got so much hype on BookTube again. This is supposed to be a post-apocalyptic book that there is a disease that kills 99% of population, and the amount of people that survives decides to like split up, live their own lives, and then one group that play Shakespeare, that they travel from the survivors to survivors and they just like perform their theater stuff. But it also follows quite a few characters and they talk about a lot of things. So there's like one guy, for example, died, and one girl is like obsessing over him and his death. And there's also discussion about the Station 11, this comic, and like this girl's like her life being like surrounded about this comic, and so she's trying to figure out this part also. So there's like a lot of little storylines, I guess, that go along with this entire being post-apocalyptic book. I also very much dislike this. I give it 2 stars, and the reason for that being that when I go into post-apocalyptic books and we find out that there was a disease, for example, and a lot of people die, I want to know how it all went down, how people, you know, went through the stuff, how their life changed, how they were able to find their new normal, try to survive, like go into those details of their world and everything that they know crashed on them, and they have to figure out their new life. This book did not do any of it. I highlighted 2 chapters that I personally liked in this book. Chapter 1, when, you know, they started with how this one guy died in the theater and how they were just announcing that there is a virus, and then chapter 42, where not chapter 42, but the terminal, chapter 42, where they also describe how this one guy was at an airport when this all started and how people were freaking out, the airplanes and airlines canceling their flights, and just like people were trying to then stay at the airport and survive there and go to the cafes and eat the food and like burn the newspapers to, you know, keep it warm and just stay there and hope for the better. And so how some pilots like went and flew places for the hopes to find a better place where they can get some help. I was really frustrated with this book because when the event happened, right, of this virus spreading, and then they just skipped 20 years. That period of like first few years, I want to know how people just like were surviving. It was skipped. It did not exist. It was just like straight to 20 years past, and now a new generation, you know, is growing up apparently, and those people are living and performing Shakespeare. What frustrated me a lot that the people were so stagnant and so like one-dimensional, that people, you know, they were trying to say, oh, they just went and hunted, they just killed a deer and they ate him, and then they went up before Shakespeare. I'm sorry, but that's not how people work. There's so much more details I feel like that should be discussed, that were missed, that didn't make the story believable at all. People cannot just eat plain meat every day for 20 years. Yeah, you can go kill a deer and survive on that, but how don't people try to find other ways and other things to eat? Are everybody just fine with just like eating plain nothing for 20 years? Like, that's not how people work. Somebody would be like, no, how about we try to cook some of the meals we had before, make it a little bit something human, right, to eat again. Like, all the people that survived, nobody apparently tried to like get the society back together. Like, you've lived in a society, don't you want to like try to go back to the ways? Or if you didn't want to, like, do you want to create something better? No, they just stayed on the primitive form of barely surviving, living in the wilderness, traveling, killing deers, and performing Shakespeare. Let's talk about Shakespeare in a second. Why the heck would they performing Shakespeare? I was trying to be like, oh, the survival is not enough. I'm pretty sure that's not what it says, but that's what it was supposed to say. Like, the survival is not enough. That's why we need the music and the theater and Shakespeare to feel like we're human and we're people and we like reach inside, whatever. Why don't you write plays that represent your days? Why don't you write plays that, you know, adjust to how you live and how you feel? Why do you play Shakespeare? I'm not, again, doing anything against Shakespeare. Shakespeare is good, but you cannot just be playing Shakespeare in a post-apocalyptic world and saying that you are culturally enriched. No, that's not... There could be also a lot of discussion about the religious groups, right, that believed that the end of the world, that this pandemic was the end of the world, so all the like bad souls perished and now we are the chosen ones to be in this. Like, I'm sure there will be like religious groups that will go nuts and start promoting, you know, purification of the earth, if you will, and this book attempted some of that, but it never went into deepness of how it formed, how people changed their minds, perspectives, and what were driving them, rather than just like the plain one-dimensional story of this one group that were pestering people. This was not worth it. It was not worth it. This is one of the worst post-apocalyptic books I ever read, along with The Stand. There you go, you can go over there. So, after reading these 3 fantastic books in the month of July, I was highly discouraged, and I want to take a moment to talk about it because all of these books were recommended to me highly and pressed upon me by the booktube, and people seemed to really enjoy them, and I did not understand at that point what's wrong with me and how come I'm not enjoying the books that everybody else is enjoying. Is there something wrong with me? Am I looking too deep into the books? Am I should be a little bit easier and let things slide? Yet I just can't. I feel like I do overthink things and I need the stories to be complicated and filled with emotion and moral and some truth in it in order to make me love it. And I was honestly just thinking at this time that maybe I should just start watching booktube and getting recommendations from that and try to figure out my own tastes, even though it's super hard when literally everybody screams to you that this book is great and you must read it, and then you spend your money and your time you know, trying to get into the book and you just like disappointed. Anyway, this video is gonna be long as is without me rambling, but I just really want to come out there and say that I'm struggling to find what my reading tastes are, and if you guys, my viewers who watch my channel on regular, if you've seen some patterns of things that I love and don't like in books, and if you, you know, from the side perspective can tell me like what I should be picking up, give me some recommendations based on just things that I say, like that would be great, because I'm honestly kind of lost. I'm just gonna stop there and we're just gonna talk about the books that I actually loved, that I gave 5 stars to, so that will help you and me to figure out what I actually like in books. Then I read 2 books that I absolutely loved, and they have nothing to do with each other, but I'm just saying that I am glad that we finishing this video on a good note. The first thing that I finally read is Another Day by David Levithan. I don't know who, it's a Megan, it's somebody else that have been just pushing me to read this book and ask me like, did you read this yet? Did you read this yet? I finally read it, okay? It took me... Okay. It took me some time to finally read this book, but I finally got around reading this one. This is a sequel or companion novel to Every Day by David Levithan. This follows the same story as in Every Day, just from Rhiannon's perspective. So if you can think of Twilight, Bella was the first book, and then Midnight Sun was like Edward's perspective on the same story. That's kind of the same thing, which was very interesting anyway. It was the same story, but even though like I already knew what's gonna happen, I still kind of forgot, because I did really take quite a bit break from reading this story, and going back to it was really nice and nostalgic and really sweet. I loved Every Day. I gave it like 4.5, and I think I'm giving this one 5 stars, even though I know like this is not my all-time favorite book, and I usually give 5 stars to my all-time favorite books. But honestly, this story I just cannot get rid of out of my head. Is stuck there. This stuff that's been happening, like again a normal YA with a sci-fi twist of this guy or girl who's been waking up in a different body every day, and so he or she, depends on whose body he wakes up, right, just like has to live their life and not interrupt this specific person's life. And then one day he falls in love with Rhiannon, the girl in school, and he's trying to like make his way to meet and be with her almost every day in a different body. And this is just like their love story, and it's just so cute. It's so sweet, and the characters are so fleshed out and realistic, and I thoroughly enjoy Every Day in this book. And I've already ordered Someday, which is like a sequel to this story. Finally, I ordered it from Barnes & Noble, so I just got a phone call that they got my book, so I'm gonna go pick it up after I finish filming this video. But I just love this entire concept. The characters, they fit together so well, and the ending is so sad and beautiful. So if you haven't never heard about it, or you never picked up, but I thought of picking up Every Day, I highly recommend. There's also a movie adaptation for Every Day, which is also really cute and adorable. So I've also finally read Mallory by George Malaman. I picked up Bird Box. When did I pick it up? In 2019? 18? It's been a while. And Mallory came out last year. I meant to buy it, but I was waiting for the soft cover to come out. So when I finally got my hands on it, I was able to read it. I gave it 5 stars. Okay, maybe not 5 stars. I am thinking 4.5. Yeah, I'm gonna give it 4.5. And the reason for that being that I just love going back into this world. There's so many things that changed. We're following now Mallory and her teenage children trying to survive in this world, and the revelations and stuff that happens in the book, it feels wrong but then ends up being right, and there's so many like plot twists that I'm like, oh my god. It still feels intense and feels dangerous, it feels uncomfortable, and it's really thrilling. And as I said, there's a lot of things happening in the short book that moves the story progressively towards like a good ending. I don't know if there'll be another book coming, but I am now more satisfied with this than what we left at like the first book. And even though so many people say that this is a really necessary sequel, just like this, you know, this entire situation about sequels, people say, is it really necessary to have a sequel to really such a great novel? And my answer is like, if you love the story and the characters, you will be happy to read the sequel, no matter like how bad it is or not. Like, you will be glad to be back in the same world with the same characters. Even though Mallory probably to some people in this book will come out as like super paranoid and annoying and just like over the top, I feel like just like her life choices and the, you know, this also post-apocalyptic, like a lot of people died and she just losing her mind because she's not in the society that she used to, just, you know, being alone, trying to be a mother, a good mother for that, and she's trying so hard. Like, I could feel for her. Like, yes, I would never like relate to her. I don't have to protect Like, I wouldn't have to protect my children from monsters, you know, from able to see outside. But her struggles, right, and her struggles in this like post-apocalyptic world of her trying to do her best, her being a mother, trying to make right decisions for her children and herself, is really relatable. And I feel like parents can relate to this. And even though like this is not, you know, far from realistic, it can still work if you write the characters right. Now that you've been asking me, Catherine, well, what about the August pick? For your book club, Jane Eyre, right? Did you read that? No. No, I failed. I failed for the first time. Listen, I read half. I am pretty much exactly on the half point, maybe a little bit over half. I am making my way through this. I'm not that upset, and I'm not that butthurt about it. I don't remember ever being able to read a thick classic like this in 1 month. The point is that being that I hate pushing myself to read classics. I want to be in the mood. I want to understand what's going on. I want to be invested. I want to try to get out of the story. And if I feel like I have to rush it, then I will not like the book. So whenever I felt like I'm in the mood, like I read. And then if I didn't feel like it, I picked up many other books. And I think because I didn't push myself and I didn't specifically just focus and just, I need to finish this, I read so many fantastic books instead. So I did not finish it, but I plan to finish Jane Eyre. So far my thoughts about it, that I am not understanding classics anymore. I'm not relating to them this much. The problems that the classics or Jane Eyre is facing specifically will like never really touch me, will never bother me. And even though I've watched a few videos about the Charlotte Bronte and what made her write the book and what actually happened to her story, whoever read Jane Eyre this month and finished, congratulations, you a good person. I bow to you for finishing this massive of a book in 1 month. You're fantastic. I wish I could be like you, but I will be finishing this and discussing it next month in September, okay? Alright, let's talk about the rest of the year. I'm gonna quickly mention, for September we're reading Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. If you want to join the book club and read this with me and discuss it in September, I guess I'll have to read both of these in September. Lord help me. Let's now pray for the lords and gods for not giving us big thick classics for the rest of the year, okay? Catherine can handle this. So we're clear on that. Let's pick a book for the month of October. Again, you don't have to join me every month, but if you're interested in this specific book and you have it, you better read it so we can discuss it. This one, okay? Are you ready? God damn it. Frankenstein! I told you no more classes. Did I not ask for no more classes? Wait, I just came to realize. That's kind of perfect. For the month of October, we're reading Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Pretty small book. The Frankenstein is not that huge of a novel. Look, I even put a bookmark at some point there to start reading it. Look, the girl was having attempts. Okay. This is kind of perfect because it's one of the only like monster horror classics, and it comes up to be in October. October, spooky month. You want to read spooky, you want to read Frankenstein. That's kind of perfect. I'm not mad at it actually. Alright, let's now pick a book for the month of October. Please not a classic. I will not be able to handle it well. We're gonna go for this one. Oh boy. Okay, I can do that. Flowers for Algernon. I'm not mad at it. It's not a classic. Thank you. Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. That's cool. I've heard so many good things about this. People loving it. This is one of the classics. I think you should read it at school or at some point in your life. I wanted to read it much more before this challenge comes out, before our book club was formed, so I am thoroughly excited. Charlie Gordon is about to embark upon the unprecedented journey. Born with an unusually low IQ, he has been chosen as a perfect subject for experimental surgery that researchers hope will increase his intelligence, a procedure that has already been highly successful when tested on a lab mouse named Algernon. As the treatment takes effect, Charlie's intelligence expands until it surpasses that of the doctors who engineered his metamorphosis. The experiment appears to be a scientific breakthrough of paramount importance. Until Algernon suddenly deteriorates. Will the same happen to Charlie? Oh my god, this sounds amazing and sad and awesome. I am so pumped. Are you just ready? It looks very easy to read. It looks sick, so I'm so excited to read this one actually. I've been waiting for my opportunity to read it. Okay, December. December must be a good month. It must be good. It's my birthday. I will not take some crappy classic. So please give me something sweet and nice, and this one. Okay, I'm not mad at it. Okay, The Secret Life of Bees. Sorry, could you see it? Okay, and it's pretty short. Also, The Secret Life of Bees by Susanna Kid. Again, another one of those like books that you see everywhere, like you must read, whatever. No, I don't know what it's about. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I've seen it everywhere. Set in South Carolina in 1964, The Secret Life of Bees tells the story of Lily Owens, whose life has been shaped around the blurred memory of the afternoon her mother was killed. When Lily's fierce-hearted black stand-in mother, Rosaline, insults three of the deepest racists in town, Lily decides to spring them both free. They escape to Tiburon, South Carolina, the town that holds the secret of her mother's past. Taken in by the eccentric trio of black beekeeping sisters, Lily is introduced to the mesmerizing world of bees and honey and the Black Madonna. This is a remarkable novel about divine female power, a story that women will share and pass on to their daughters for years to come. Wow, that sounds so good. Why does it sound so good? And why nobody talks about it? I love stories about families. I love heartwarming things. I love people finding themselves and coming to some conclusions in their life. So I'm actually really excited to read this. So we're just gonna be done with these, you know, in September, and we're gonna move on for the rest of the year being much more exciting and fun. So if you'd like to read any of this, you just join, you get a book from the library or bookstore, read it, and then come back to this channel. We're gonna discuss it in the comments down below. If you also would like to buddy read any of these books with me, you feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, and let's buddy read them. Alright, and yeah, this has been my July and August wrap-up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you have a great the rest of the day, and I'll see you later. Bye!